We're going to fix the bridge, we're going to do it right, and we're going to keep people safe. And I keep on repeating that.
But you have to wait for the engineers to finish up their reports to let us know if we need a new bridge altogether.
Holding the powerful accountable from Washington, D.C. to right here in southern New England. This is 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti.
People of the state of Rhode Island want to know, one way or another, definitively, is the bridge coming down?
I want to know that, too.
We all want to know that. Good morning, everybody. I'm Gene Valicenti. That's the question everybody wants an answer to. And in addition to that, if we need a new one, can we shore up the old one and use it in the interim? 9 weeks into the emergency closure at the Washington Bridge comes the politicians with a joint House and Senate oversight hearing.
Why does it take 2.5 months to gather findings about this bridge?
We are extremely capable of delivering bridge projects as fast as they possibly can. This bridge, as you heard the testimony before from VHB, is an extremely complex bridge, and it is unique in the inventory of bridges at DOT.
DOT Director Peter Alviti, then keeping his Thursday morning regular appointment with me for Ask the DOT on the radio on WPRO, and pushing back against House Minority Leader Mike Chippendale, who at one point flashed a PowerPoint presentation about weight limits and asking if the DOT ignored this concern. Was it a smoking gun? Did they drop the ball?
The presentation that they were holding up, I believe they were purporting it to be something that indicated to us that we should have either closed the bridge or posted a weight limit or taken some action. In fact, the PowerPoint is none of that. It's not that at all. We took it back to, we got a copy of it. We had our engineers and project managers look at it, along with the consultant who actually did it. And they all agree that that PowerPoint was part of a discussion between the contractor and our project managers about additional costs that would be necessary to put some additional fiber reinforced plastic on some of the beams. They were working on a project that was rehabilitating the bridge. They had bid a certain amount of fiber reinforced plastic in their price, and they were seeking additional reimbursement for providing more of that material. That's what it was. It was not a set of calculations to determine load limits or any other kind of load restriction or weight limit kind of computations. It was part of a negotiation for additional reimbursement.
Hold it right there for a second. Play Ken Block, and then you'll continue your response.
How the DOT allowed an engineering solution to be implemented as poorly as this one appears to have been done, including that the design itself back in 2016 wasn't up to certain engineering standards. So, I mean, it's a shocking mess. It's very unprofessional, and it shows basically, I think, gross negligence on the part of the DOT to ensure, first of all, that we're being told the truth about this. And secondly, they appeared to fail to have done their job in 2016 to ensure that the money that is being spent to improve the bridge was being spent effectively.
Now, you made a lot of conclusions there, Peter. That's strong language. Now, you're saying the PowerPoint he's talking about was work that was underway and that it was the contractor coming back to say we need more money to fix it a certain way. Did you turn the contractor down for fixing it a certain way? Did you turn him down or give him any extra money? Was that negligent, and are you telling the truth?
No, absolutely not. I'm not even sure I understand what Ken Block was saying just now. The contract that the contractor and that engineer were working under was a contract where we identified years ago what needed to be done in order to reinforce the structure to make it last another 25 years or so. They were working on that when additional discoveries were made. We've said that all along. So this is something that was a matter of course. It was happening, and these were discussions between the contractor and us about the price of what they were doing, and they submitted this PowerPoint in support of their request for additional reimbursement. We were still in those discussions when we closed the bridge, so it's a moot issue now. But this in no way was some kind of a declaration that something happened. Everybody knew that the bridge needed to be fixed. This was a discussion on how it was going to progress and how much it would cost. So
did Ken Block call you just to ask you about it before he tweeted out? Did he call you to say, what is this? Did he call you? Ken Block enjoys a certain status, more than just an average citizen, because he ran for governor, and he's very adept at what he does, and he knows how to date him on. He makes a good living at that. Did he call you to run this by you before he tweeted it out and went on the radio?
No, I wish he had. Look, Ken Block may be an expert in other areas, but it's very apparent from his erroneous conclusions about this that he's not an engineer, and nor is Chippendale, and their conclusions about this are wrong. It does not indicate what they're saying it indicates. This was merely a discussion between a contractor and their client, us, RIDOT, about additional work that they wanted to do that would cost more money, and it was a discussion about that.
Chippendale and Ken Block both presenting the same concerns about the same material. A PowerPoint presentation, the DOT pushing back against both of them. On Friday morning, Ken Block went on the radio again to say he doesn't trust the DOT. That's why he didn't call them. He doesn't trust them. He prefers to confront them with information to get them to act. And that he has more information coming. NBC 10's Gabrielle Caracciolo caught up with the governor Thursday.
We know that people want to hear what happened, but they also want to hear what are we going to do to fix it.
Governor Dan McKee says he's still waiting for an answer to that question as engineers continue to examine the Washington Bridge. New defects found on the bridge in January were described at the State House Oversight hearing earlier this week. Those problems include voids and cracking with unsound concrete.
All of these deficiencies could indicate reduced tension in these cables, resulting in internal loss of strength within the existing beams.
At what point do you feel like we should just maybe move towards replacing the bridge, or do you have confidence that a fix is even possible?
Well, we're going to fix the bridge, we're going to do it right, and we're going to keep people safe. And I keep on repeating that because I think that's an important message for people to hear. But we're not going to speculate or jump to conclusions.
While he couldn't provide a more exact timeline for when a decision will be made, the governor says he has met with the engineers working on the bridge. What are they telling you during those meetings?
They're basically telling us that that they're looking into it, and they're giving their options and that type of thing. But it's not ready to start speculating on my part. I'm not an engineer. I'm going to wait for the engineers to kind of give us the information.
When it comes to whatever recommendations the engineers make, how do you instill confidence in Rhode Islanders that the bridge is going to be safe as we continue learning about different deficiencies?
People are uncomfortable because they don't know what the plan is yet. And it's difficult to tell them that we don't, to wait because we've got to get the engineers to give the right advice. I just say that we're heading in the right direction, and I believe that we'll have a plan that will people will be feeling very confident about.
Coming up on 10 News Conference, the I-Team's Brian Crandall with more on cracks and concerns, plus Peter Alviti reacting to our reporting.
Thank you for turning to 10, your news leader. 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti continues right now.
We can clearly see that the problem is severe in July, to a point that personally I would say I would have to drop everything and I would just sit down and just address that particular connection.
But we can clearly see that's a materials expert from Arizona State University sitting down with the I-Team's Brian Crandall after we sent him photographs to examine of cracks on the Washington Bridge. Brian, I should tell you, the DOT doesn't make much of our efforts. In fact, they say that guy's sitting out in Arizona, what does he know about our bridge? But we'll get to that. But first, you get to your reporting.
Yeah, we were looking for an independent expert to try to decipher what we've been given over the past couple months. Inspection reports, photos of what happened at the bridge. From the outset, DOT Director Alviti had said that this must have been an issue that suddenly happened, that steel tie rod broke maybe by a heavy truck that went over, and then, they compared it to the last inspection before that in July and said, look, everything was okay in July, and in December there was a problem. Because, one of the main questions here is, how did you not know that this could have been a problem before you had to suddenly close the bridge in December. So we tried to find an expert. We were led in the direction of this professor at Arizona State who his expertise isn't necessarily in bridges, it's in materials that fail.
Okay.
But he's the one who brought up the crack. I didn't say, what about this crack? He looked at the photos and noticed that crack. It's a diagonal crack from the July inspection photo, and said that this is not some cosmetic crack and that it could be an indication of a greater problem.
So we supplied him with material to review, which is essentially the DOT photos. Take a look at this. What do you think? What was the question that you asked him, or what were the set of questions that you asked him? Well, what do you think when you look at it?
Yeah, my basic question was, tell us what you, look at these photos, tell us what you think. And he picked out the crack in July. I didn't say compare the two. I just said, here's the photos. You know, and he said this crack, and the caption under the crack from the inspection said that there was exposed and broken rebar in that area. And he said that's not just a cosmetic crack, it's what they call a shear crack, and it could be an indicator of a greater problem. And that could have led, he thought, to the problem with the steel tie-down rod that broke.
Well, fair is fair. I asked the DOT, I said, what about the reporting we've done? We sent the photographs out to this materials expert at Arizona State University, and Peter Alvidi doesn't make much of it. He said the guy's sitting behind a computer out in Arizona. He hasn't examined any of the material, any of the core samples, so let's listen and give the DOT its due.
Well, being in Arizona, not actually taking samples of the materials that he's an expert about and having them analyzed and tested to determine exactly what caused the failure is something that our forensic engineers are doing as we speak. They were at the site, took measurements. They actually observed the area under consideration. They took samples. They are analyzing those, and they will give us a report of findings. And as I said before, let's wait for that. Someone, hundreds of miles away in looking at pictures isn't the same as a actual forensic structural engineering study that includes hands-on site visits and measurements that will actually make a determination on what actually happened. And we'll wait for that. We'll wait for the experts to tell us exactly what happened.
640. Come on, Gene. You let Peter dodge and filibuster on the assessment of the Arizona professor. He was talking about materials. He was not talking about materials. He was talking specifically about the crack that was in the July inspection picture. That was the troublesome point. Peter, did I let you skate on that or filibuster on that, or do you want to just amplify your response to the Arizona professor who was looking at pictures yesterday? Are you assuming your guys looked at those same pictures?
They did more than that, Gene. The engineering company that we hired are experts at forensic engineering, and they actually took measurements, they sampled, they analyzed the samples. They're doing a complete analysis, hands-on, at the location. Rendering opinions from 1,000 miles away in a university is different than our actual forensic engineering analysis that we're having done, which is a complete analysis of all of the components that could have contributed to the failure of that. We'll be getting a report on it. We'll report out on it.
Right.
I'm going to wait to see what the experts have to say.
Hey, Brian, this is the business we've chosen.
Yeah, sure.
Peter, he's saying, look, this guy out in Arizona, he didn't say he doesn't know what he's talking about. He didn't attack him personally. He said, that guy's sitting behind a computer in Arizona. I'm over here with the borings. And by the way, you have to take some of the criticism, and I do too. As you just saw some of the callers there, I let him off easy because he's on my show every Thursday on Ask the DOT. We'll live with it.
Right, yeah, and I'm not denying that. We asked somebody to look at the pictures, and no, we didn't have an expert on site. The DOT and the governor's office have brought in experts to do a forensic analysis. I didn't hear him say there was nothing wrong in July. I heard the director say, I'm talking about Director Alvidi, he's saying let's wait for the forensic audit, which they have now ordered as a result of the bridge closure, to find out what was wrong. I didn't hear him say there was nothing wrong, but that, and that is why we wanted to look for an expert to, again, we're not bridge engineers and we don't know this stuff either. They handed us all these inspection reports a couple months ago and have said these photos and this and that. So, we tried to find somebody who might have a better idea of what we're looking at there, again, to answer a couple key questions of Could this have been prevented beforehand and the bridge not suddenly closed? And also, the bridge has been under construction for a few years already as part of a 5-year rehabilitation project. How was this missed before then?
It might be reasonable to ask for people to wait, but in reality, it's not what the media does. The journal's out there looking at paint. When the paint was sprayed, you're out there sending pictures to Arizona. The Boston Globe is talking to unhappy union members. Ken Block is tweeting out and going on the radio about PowerPoint presentations. So the story is now, it's not going to wait. I think that'd be fair to both sides.
Yeah, sure. And in a lot of instances, whether it's an election, we have political experts, or on legal issues, we have experts who may not be right in there on the issue, but we're asking them to take a look at the issues and the information that they have available and give their expertise that we don't have to look at it, or whether it's a military operation or something like that. Of course, they're not on the ground and right there, but we ask them to take a look and tell us what they think.
All right, Brian, thanks for coming in on the hot seat today. All right, when we come back, there's more to get to. Stay with us. We're going to talk to the RIPTA CEO, Scott Avedisian, about closing more than a dozen bus routes and making changes to others.
Once again, America's industrial might will arm the cause of freedom, as we have so many times before. Now is the time for courage. History is watching. The cause of freedom and the hopes of millions are on the line.
Rhode Island Democrat Congressman Seth Magaziner wants the House to vote on funding for Ukraine and Israel. The Senate passed a bill on Tuesday, but House Speaker Mike Johnson hasn't scheduled a vote as of this taping. In fact, he said it's dead on arrival. All right, more news. RIPTA, the bus agency, is looking to eliminate close to a dozen bus routes and make changes to others. We've been digging into the ridership numbers. NBC 10's Katie Benoit found that a few buses run nearly empty.
It's kind of disheartening.
William Moitoso says he uses RIPTA route 61X to get from East Providence to Bristol to see his son.
And the cool part is that 61 ran by both houses. So it's like, I don't have to go to Providence, so I don't have to deal with the bridge or anything. And when I saw they were canceling, it was like a jab to the heart.
Other riders could be disappointed soon, too. RIPTA is looking at eliminating 11 routes across the state. NBC 10 requested ridership figures and found some routes carry very few people. 3 times a day, a bus runs from West Warwick to Providence, carrying an average of 3 passengers. There's also a bus between Kennedy Plaza and Roger Williams Park Zoo that almost nobody uses on Saturday, averaging less than 1 rider per trip. The proposal also includes running other trips less often, or adding services in a few cases. The busiest route is the R line, with an average of 37 riders per trip.
What is your message to people who might see that their route that they usually take is going to be impacted?
Well, I think they need to tell us how important that is to them and how it allows them to get to school, to work, and to life, and so that we can go back and make informed decisions.
The board will look at public comments and criticisms before voting on the changes. RIPTA CEO Scott Avedisian says about 20 more drivers are needed to help with the shortage.
We have another career fair on Thursday that we hope will bring in more people.
Lousy week for riders in Massachusetts. Some MBTA riders chose to walk to work after a power outage affected their morning commute. The Thursday morning outage brought the orange line to a halt and significantly delayed the blue and the green lines. The MBTA says there was an unexpected power outage at North Station that impacted the signal system. That led the T to turn off the power as a safety precaution. Riders say there needs to be better communication when issues arise.
Every single day I get texts from my coworkers, oh, I'm going to be late, something's down, something's not moving. I wish it was a little bit more efficient, but it's okay. Got to work with it.
And then there was the 4 a.m. T out of Providence that got stuck about an hour into the ride. As an apology for the inconvenience, rides during the afternoon rush hour were free. Only on 10, Rhode Island Superior Court Judge and former Lieutenant Governor Richard Leach spoke with Patrice Wood about his recovery 1 year after being hit by a Jeep near the State House.
That's Rescue 193, respond 82 Smith Street.
I woke up in the hospital.
Reported a pedestrian struck.
And I said, why me? I thought about it for 15 seconds. And I said, that's the stupidest question you can ask. Because it was me. It had happened. And I had a choice. You could be depressed, or you could get better. And I took the route of getting better.
February 15th, 2023. Judge Richard Leach was crossing Smith Street, he admits not in a crosswalk, when the driver of a yellow Jeep struck him.
Have you regained memory of what happened on that day?
I have no memory of what happened. I really don't have a memory for the first probably 36 to 48 hours.
But he has read the police report.
The police report said the driver didn't brake, and so I got thrown 35 feet.
Judge Leach was rushed to Rhode Island Hospital. Multiple surgeries followed for a shattered femur, injured back, and eventually a brain bleed. Next stop after Rhode Island Hospital, Spalding Rehabilitation Center. His wife, Roanne, his advocate all the way. There, he became a physical therapist's dream client, taking his friend's advice to push himself despite the pain.
When they would tell you to do, 20 reps, how many would you do?
30.
Look who's here, look. And it paid off. 1 month after getting struck, still supported by a walker, he returned home.
Who's that? Who's there?
To the delight of the family dog, Peach Leach, just in time to celebrate his 75th birthday. Daily, he ramped up his workout, reaching another goal, back to swimming laps, something he's done since childhood. Being already physically fit was key to his recovery. Driving again, too, another goal met. And in August, Judge Richard Leach returned to the bench at Kent County Superior Court. A positive attitude, encouragement from everyone, friends, family, strangers, hard work, and he's back to doing almost everything he could do before.
Except for that golf, but I'll get there, Patrice, I promise you.
All right, good luck, Judge. Finally, one of the most familiar voices on local radio announces that he'll be turning off the mic for good. NBC 10's Doug Lizette spoke to 92 Pro FM's Giovanni, who tells us he's closing out a 50-year career.
In the spring of 1974, WPRO-FM turned off the easy listening music and turned on the rock and roll. And Giovanni was there, behind the scenes, destined to be the DJ who outlasted all the others on Wampanoag Trail, adapting to different owners, air shifts, and changes in how people listen.
The premise is still the same, play music, be entertaining and all that, but you have to find different ways to hold on to them and keep their interest.
The cornerstone of Gio's long career has really been about consistency. Same radio station, same building, same call letters, same format. And for 25 of those 50 years, the same early morning shift.
Nobody does that in radio. It doesn't happen.
Gary Berkowitz was Pro FM's first program director and gave Gio his big chance behind the mic.
Gary said to me, goes, Andy Field can't work Saturday. What are you doing Saturday? I'm like, nothing. You're on the air. And that's how I got on the air.
92 Stereo, PRO-FM.
More music, FM 92, PRO-FM. Well, looks like we're going to get it again. They say possibly 3 to 5 inches of that white stuff.
Back at the station, we would say, well, who's going to be the next Salty? In Providence. And it turned out it was Giovanni.
On April 29th, when Pro FM celebrates 50 years of playing hit music, it will also say goodbye to Gio, who says it's time to retire. There's nobody pushing him. He's just ready to sleep in.
And, when the time comes that it's over, first week or so, I'll be like, why did I do this? And then I'm thinking after a while, once I figure out what's next for me, I'll be okay.
In East Providence, Doug Lizette, NBC 10 News.
Well, he works right downstairs from where I work every weekday morning on Pro AM, AM 630 and 99.7 FM, and where we hear 10 News Conference weekday mornings, or rather weekend mornings at 6 a.m. I'll see you on the news next week. Thanks for being with us for now.